Welcome to the Meat and Potatoes podcast. We're here with Matt Rogers, who is the co-founder and CEO of Pestie. How are you?
Good. I'm happy to be here. Really happy to be here.
Yeah, thank you for taking the time. Cool name, and you can probably derive from the name, it has something to do with pests, which nobody likes. Tell us about Pestie. What's the story?
Yeah, so Pestie, it's direct-to-consumer pest control. So direct to homeowners, no technicians, no salesmen, and really kind of giving the homeowners the tools to go and solve these problems. Where the idea came from is years back, I bought my first home, and my wife and I, you have this new construction, it starts disrupting a lot of the ground, and so it disrupts a lot of the ecosystem for these bugs, and so you start getting ants and spiders and all these things, right? So I had a few buddies that sold door-to-door pest control, and so I started talking to them, understanding kind of what that market was. And what you learn really quick is that it's, $500, $600, $700 a year, longer contracts. You have to schedule out these appointments. And we were at a place where we didn't have a whole ton of money, and so we were trying to save. Just didn't feel like it was the right solution for us. So then I went to Home Depot. I was like, I'm a DIY type of guy. Like, I can figure this out. Well, you go to that aisle and there's 100 different SKUs. There's all these different colors, different actives. And you're like, I don't even know what I'm looking at right now. And so I was like, okay, there's a better way. Like, I can create something here. And right at that time, I was at Purple Mattress. I was the first person marketing at Purple Mattress. And if you look at what Purple did, is it took this really, really old industry of mattress sales that was not attractive, not sexy, not a whole lot of investment dollars, right? It's like Purple came in with an awesome product and a new sales process, new business model, and really just took it by storm. And it was just like a light bulb of like, okay, like pest control needs this, right? Pest control has been in this weird time capsule for 30, 40, 50 years of not a whole lot of innovation, just door-to-door sales, or you go to Home Depot and you're kind of stuck with these older solutions. And so I'm a big advocate of awesome founding teams. And so I'd worked with an awesome individual at Purple, software dev by trade turned marketer. And then a roommate in college was actually a door-to-door salesman. And so us three came together and founded this company of looking at pest control in a different way, of trying to disrupt it, bring value, a lot of value back to the consumer, and layer on this really interesting technology component that'll increase results and increase satisfaction, everything like that. So that's kind of like the really quick version of the founding story of looking at this industry and trying to make it better. So
Very cool. And the idea was based on, observing the world and figuring out a niche that you could help solve for. But at some point, you probably have to talk to some sort of scientific person that knows what can kill bugs and pests and probably what wouldn't kill endangered butterflies and bees type of thing.
Sure.
So what was that step like, moving into all right, the idea is good, the validation's good, now we got to do something?
Well, I mean, as an entrepreneur, you learn really fast that like you can figure out a lot of things yourself. And so then it just became the research and development aspect of it. All three of us really diving deep into the chemistry and the anatomy, the active ingredients that are available, and how pesticides actually work. And then how can we like layer on this? Okay, let's protect the bees. Let's protect all these endangered species. And so what we ended up doing is finding, really awesome products and developing these really awesome products. And then once again, layering on this technology component that allows us to cycle through a lot of these different products so that it's the most effective possible. We can get to that in just a little bit, but I think as an entrepreneur, you learn really fast that, you can go hire it out. You can go ask people, but really there's no substitute for you just going in there and getting into the research and figuring out yourself, because you learn really fast that you can, that you're smarter than you think, right? That you can go and figure out a lot of different things. So that's kind of what happened with us with the actives and trying to figure out the chemistry of it.
Yeah. And you move on to something that you're good at, the storytelling and marketing, right?
Yeah.
You can have the greatest concoction for killing pests on planet Earth, but you're telling the customers there's this better, cheaper way to do this. Takes a lot of the guesswork out. How do you go about telling that? Because that's interesting. Your background is your marketing.
Yeah, I mean, I draw a lot on my background at Purple and at Kizik, where it's this new idea that people aren't maybe as comfortable with. Think of mattresses, buying a mattress online, or buying shoes that you just slip right into, right? There's these different types of customer behavior that you have to get around. And there's this level of a little bit of education that you have to do. And that just lends itself to maybe slightly longer form video and making sure that your website actually performs and everything like that. We drew a lot on our experience at Purple of creating the mattress ad, right? Or the mattress and egg ad. And we went and created a bunch of longer form videos for Pestie. They seemed to work pretty good. Then we started cutting those down, making them a little bit more bite size. And then we've just been able to see it kind of take off. We've seen this interesting shift also in like platform, right? Of like Facebook advertising. It's a little bit more done up, a little bit more professional looking. There's this whole like evolution of TikTok creative that works across all platforms where it's very raw. It's very UGC. It's very like influencer and creator driven, and using that to go and storytell your brand. What we've loved about that is that it decreases the upfront cost, right? You don't have to go spend tens or 20s or hundreds of thousands of dollars on a video. You go and you're just a talking head on the app, and you're able to tell your story in a really interesting and concise way. It lends itself to a lot of testing, lends itself to a lot of rapid iteration of content and stuff like that. And so we just try and always be testing with our marketing strategy. We look at it in terms of you're going to test and you're going to learn from that test, and you're really going to scale the content that works, right? So test, learn, scale, and just trying to like make that loop as quick as possible, the cadence of testing just as quick as possible. And so you got to build out internal teams. You got to build out the right agencies to work with. You got to build out the right messaging and stories, and really trying to hone in on what headlines are going to work and what's not going to work, and then really try and be as scientific as you can about it, even though there's this layer of art always with marketing. So
yeah. And which do you enjoy most, the art or the science of marketing?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, because like I actually graduated in college from economics, which is very analytical driven, right? So I love that aspect of it, of looking in the numbers and click-through rates and CPMs and CPCs, like where's this all going? But if you get too tied down in the numbers, I think you lose a lot of the magic of it, right? Of, okay, let's try and connect with these people on an emotional level and put me in their shoes of what would I like to hear? What would make me really interested? And that's more of the artistic side. So it's for sure a blend. I'm kind of a sucker for the data, I think. But man, I love a good brainstorm sesh where it feels like 90% of it, you're just shooting the breeze, and 10% you're like, hey, that's a great idea. Let's go and do that, right? So yeah. Anyway, love that artistic side of it too.
So you have a good brainstorming session and you hit on something that you think will work. You mentioned you kind of have teams and you're going to spin things up, and then it's a lot of testing. From brainstorm session to somebody seeing a video or reading a little snippet, what is that process like, and how long does it take?
Yeah, it depends on who's making it, and it also depends on where the target is, right? If we're making a video that's going to target more of the Facebook's more polished, higher budgets, right? There's a little bit more that goes into it. Let's be very intentional about the jokes that we're telling, or the examples we're using, or the costumes and the set and everything like that. Well, if it's a brainstorm sesh on like more of our influencer or UGC type stuff, it's very like rapid fire. Let's go and sit down. We'll come up with 10 different iterations, and we'll have 1 or 2 or 3 launched by the end of the day, right? And so it depends on where your budget's going, but also depends on what's the intent of it. So we have an internal team that spearheads that, and they're amazing. They're absolutely amazing, able to turn around really, really quick. And what's good about that is, if you think of the seasonality of just e-commerce in general, like Memorial Day, we just came across Memorial Day. We had this like whole marketing campaign set up, and then maybe 2 or 3 days before, we're like, we should do this, right? So we put our internal team on it. They had a video up same day. We were able to push ads to it. It was the most successful ad that we did in that whole campaign. It's like, to be able to be really agile is crucial, especially in the consumer game. So.
Yeah. And as you start to see the returns come in, for lack of a better word, how do you guys know that something's working internally? And when do you guys decide, like, if that dog won't hunt, to put it on the back shelf?
In terms of a video, or in terms of, well, I mean, there comes the science of it, right? Okay, like, is it getting spend in the specific platforms? And then what do the click-through rates look like? What does the conversion look like? The tough thing with just looking at attributed conversion in platform conversions is that everybody lies, right? So all these attribution platforms, they all try and say that theirs is the best or there's fallout, and then there's all these tracking issues with all the technology. And so what we do is we like to look at other metrics. So I've mentioned click-through rates, and I've looked at CPMs, I've looked at view-through rates and stuff like that. We look at that aspect as well as layering on that attributed conversion aspect to really determine winners. But we've also learned that every content really has a life cycle, right? 2-3 weeks in, even if it was the best performing, you're going to start falling off, and you got to go and create more and iterate on it and stuff like that. So, anyway, that's where the science comes in.
Very cool. I remember an ad, and I think it might be the world record, is Discount Tire. I think this old grandma throwing a tire through a plate glass window or something like that. And that was like 30 or 40 years, but it doesn't sound like that applies in modern marketing.
Or just stays on forever. Not in our experience, right? Even if you think of going back to Purple, right? Of like the egg video. That was an amazing video. I mean, hundreds of millions of views, hundreds of millions of dollars that are brought in. Even that still had a life cycle. You can still go watch it, but it's not actively run. It doesn't convert as well because there's creative fatigue, market trends start shifting, which is why I think it's so crucial for Pestie to have this internal team to go and turn this creative around really, really quick so you can stay on top of those trends. I use trends lightly, right? It's like, it's one thing just to be in like the music trends of, there's this interesting dance. There's another one of like marketing trends of like, okay, we're shifting away from really professional driven type creative, and we're going more towards this raw and UGC type stuff.
Yeah. And when something's working, do you throw more fuel on the fire?
Oh, yeah.
You strategically...
Yeah, you dump all the fuel you can on that thing, right? Because you know that you're up against that clock. It's like, okay, this is only going to be live. This is only going to be relevant for so long. So if it's going to work, we dump all the fuel we can on that thing. So
gotcha.
Yeah.
And then as a team, you mentioned you guys have about 15 employees. Is there anyone that is agreed upon that has the best ideas in the brainstorming session that work the best?
I wish I could claim it as myself, but it's not me. I mean, that's why you surround yourself with the best of the best, right? And so we have an internal creator that does a lot of our TikTok and Facebook stuff. Man, she just has amazing ideas. Good ideas can come from anywhere, and I'm a true believer of that, right? As long as you have good people you trust, good ideas come from anywhere. And so just have your ears open, and so that you can hear what those good ideas are, right? If us as 3 founders were to be like, oh no, we are the only ones with good ideas, man, we would have missed out on so many really, really awesome campaigns and thus a lot of money. So.
Yeah, I can imagine. Stranger Things came out, and I've watched it, and there's a lot of spiders in Stranger Things, and I was like, it'd be interesting on the podcast. It'd be cool if Pestie was the pest control sponsor of Stranger Things. I'm sure that has a big price tag.
If Netflix is listening, just give me a call, right? So there you go. Garrett has my email. So
very cool. So rubber meets the road. Somebody likes something, they click and buy it.
Mm-hmm.
The product arrives at their house. After that, what is that like?
In terms of the process, we've tried to make it as easy as possible. We've always said that if you can mow your own lawn, you can do your own pest control. Right, so we have a series of videos, a series of instructions, the label that's included, right? All of those things inform you how to apply pest control in a good, effective manner. And so you fill up our application bag with water, you put in the concentrate, it comes with an electronic sprayer, and some gloves and stuff like that. And so as long as you just follow those instructions, follow that label, and go and apply your house, super simple, right? Call it 10 minutes, your house can be applied. And have really, really effective stuff. What we've done to make it even better for consumers is layered on this technology component where people come in, they put in their needs, they put in their zip code, and it actually customizes their plan for them. And so it's like, okay, Garrett, where do you live? Holiday. So you live in Holiday, and you're like, okay, you're up on the benches. You're going to deal with X, Y, and Z bugs. Your winter is going to last a little longer, and so we're going to delay that shipment just a little bit. And it's all customized exactly to your needs, which has resulted in an increase of satisfaction by about 30 to 35% of our customers. And so this is a really interesting component of, it's not just, you go and get a concentrate, you spray it on your house. It's the timing of when, how how often, and then the application technique, right? So we've been able to automate all of that stuff with all the technology that goes on behind the scenes. So.
Yeah, that's great, and it makes sense, right? Like, there's a decent amount of pests in Holiday, Utah, but probably not as much as Louisiana or Missouri. Right? What data are you pulling to kind of customize that?
So it's all in house. When we pull a few databases from like the USDA, they have a few charts of kind of what the weather is going to do and stuff like that. And then we also pull in weather trends from an API, but really it's just a database that we've accumulated over time, that we've gone out and have first party data on. It's the biggest database of its kind to say, okay, what's going to work in what area and what's the right schedule for it. And we're just using that data as like this interesting feedback loop back into our product development to go and make better products that just fit our customers' needs even better. So
very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a part that I did not think that you guys would do, but you're like very dialed in on that. And I'm sure the customers appreciate it because it's not one bullet for every pest.
Yeah. Well, and it's not, it all happens behind the scenes, right? So you go to pestie.com, it looks like it's the simplest thing in the world, right? Like, I'm an e-com guy, so you minimize those clicks to get to checkout, right?
Yeah.
But it all happens on the back end. It customizes your schedule. You can see the customized schedule right from the site and your emails that you get after as well. And so it's nice in the sense where customers, if they want to dive deep into, okay, what is this? How is this? It's all there, but it makes it super simple because you just come to the site, you buy, and you get rid of bugs. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I've had a few knock on my door, and if the wife answers the door, then it's like, I got to head that off, right? Because she'll just like kill everything. But I spend a lot of time outside in the garden and don't mind bugs and spiders. But I'll ask, like, is this going to kill bees?
Mm-hmm.
And the poor kid couldn't answer it. I'm like, well, in that case,
yeah,
see you later, right?
Yeah, totally.
Because I'm assuming there's a bunch of consumers that are like, I don't want these ants in my house, but I'm not willing to just scorched earth everything else.
Well, and that's our view too, right? Like, bugs are essential to our world, right? And we want them in our life. We want bugs. We need bugs, right? And we want them to thrive in their ecosystem, right? Just get out of my pantry because that's not your ecosystem. That's mine, right? And so that's everything that we do. It's like, okay, let's flush those bugs out and let's just create a barrier around your house. Those bugs can live outside. Pollinators can do their thing, spiders, everything like that. Like, we're good with them outside.
Yeah.
Just don't come inside, right? So that's very much our mantra, right? And so everything that we do kind of revolves around that of like, let's just be responsible pest control appliers and pest control users, right? Let's just be responsible.
Yeah.
We don't need to scorch everything. We don't need to like rid the earth of all these bugs. Let's just keep them out of my bedroom, So.
Exactly. I love it. And so you guys have kind of an advantage of return customers that are just happy and content, and it's kind of on autopilot.
Yeah.
I assume there's like dashboards and KPIs that you use to track that, but what does a happy customer look like for you guys?
Yeah, so we've been fortunate with our retention. I think it speaks volume to our process, our product, how effective it is, and the company, the customer service team, which is awesome. Our retention is about the top 10% for e-com subscription, which we're super happy about. And so a happy customer looks like as long as they come away from Pestie with a positive experience, then we actually count that as a win, right? If they come and they're like, hey, I have this bug, or hey, the shipping is a little bit delayed. If we can solve that that person's problem and make them feeling like, they're the number one person at Pestie, that's a win for us. And so, as long as we can keep that retention up, we can keep that customer satisfaction up, like, we consider it a win.
Absolutely. And on average, for an American customer of Pestie, how often do they get something in the mail and use it?
Between majority of the United States is about 4 times a year. When you get down into the Texas, Louisiana, you mentioned, Florida, it'll start tick up in schedule and how often they get it. Usually 4 times a year is actually pretty good though. Some of our biggest states, Texas, Florida, California, most of those are 4 to 5 a year. So
very cool. So with customer retention, I assume word of mouth is like the best ROI. Right?
Yeah.
What do you guys do to facilitate that?
Well, it's the hardest to track, unfortunately, right? And so we do our best with like post-purchase surveys and stuff like that of where did you hear from Pestie? Where did you hear about Pestie? Problem with that, it's not very reliable. And so what we do is we depend a lot on looking at, Google search trends for sure. Through Facebook and Google, you do brand lift studies, which are, sometimes pretty helpful as well. Honestly, what we do is we're just trying to produce the best quality content available, have really, really awesome reviews, get involved in the community, because I think this is super essential. And then the rest will kind of take care of itself, right?
Yeah.
We've experimented with referral programs and affiliate programs and partnerships and stuff like that, which we do, absolutely. But there's no real good substitute than just getting involved in the community and talking with really interesting people and just having a product that provides a lot of value that people need and people like, and doesn't bankrupt them. So that's all we need.
Exactly.
So.
I guess it's kind of an advantage, neighbor sees their neighbor out there, like, what are you doing? Oh, I'm doing some Pestie.
Yeah.
Where'd you get it? Mail.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
That's exactly
They go into their house and order, right?
Yeah. That's exactly right.
Awesome. All right. So you guys have raised some money over the years, correct?
Mm-hmm.
What's that process like?
Oh, man, it is a tough process. I'll tell you that much. So Pestie, when we first started, we bootstrapped Pestie. And so that is like, you're working your full-time job and you work another full-time job from 9 until 2 in the morning, right? We did that for a whole year and had some really awesome traction. But you finally get to a point where you look back on that when you're bootstrapping, you're like, man, how fast could we have grown, right? How fast? Like, what did we actually leave on the table? Turns out it was probably a lot, right? So then we started talking with all of these funds that we could think of, right? You start scouring your network of people you talked to once 10 years ago, and you're like, hey, can I pitch you my idea at your venture firm? And you pitch, I mean, I'm sure other people have said this on the podcast, but you pitch 100 times and you get, 95 absolutely no's, you get 4 no's, you get 1 yes, right? And it's like, you have to be able to weather that mentally as well as just with the time that you have available of how much money you have in the bank, right?
Yeah.
We were to find our awesome partner. They were local and they were pretty new. They were called Skylab Ventures, and we were their first investment, which was really kind of interesting, both from both sides, right? Because we're taking a chance on them, they're taking a chance on us, and it ended up just being amazing. And so then actually just recently, we closed another round of funding, which is awesome. So, but each time you go through that fundraising process, you just got to expect 95 no's, 4 kind ofs, and then 1 yes, right? And then all you need is that 1 yes, and then people start coming on. You can fill out your round pretty good. But we've been fortunate with the partners that we have. So
that's great. And it is a war of attrition, and but it probably sharpens the company as a whole, right? Like getting your house cleaned and like those accurate. All right, here's all the KPIs, all of that.
Yeah.
But it's like an extra layer of work when you're running the company as well, I would imagine.
Yeah. Oh, it is for sure a time suck. But you're right. It's like, and it's really important as a company to like do a lot of critical thinking around what your vision is and why you made the decisions you did and how is that going to affect you in the future. And you have to do that when you're pitching, right? And you get really good at telling your story, like you have to, or you don't raise money. So you have to you get really good at telling your story, conveying your vision, and really trying to understand what this market is, right? So, and you learn a lot about the venture world. So,
yes.
But
it's always good to learn other industries, and when you are raising, you actually learn quite a bit about how that works. You don't sit on that side of the table.
Yeah.
How do you and your co-founders kind of plot and strategize your next moves?
Yeah, so pest control is a huge market, right? So call it about $20 billion nationwide. And there's this huge opportunity because it's dominated by the traditional pest control companies, and then you also have this retail arm, right? And we're playing in this sandbox in the middle where we're providing amazing results, but really awesome prices and really, really convenient. And so our next moves are, okay, like, yes, we want to expand and we will expand, but we want to dominate what we have right now, right? Like we're in this interesting space where we're the leaders, where we want to continue to be that. We want to distance ourselves from anybody that's gonna pop up. And so our next moves are, we really want to dominate pest, right? And so we have a few different product lines within that we'll go into, but we don't want to expand into adjacent markets too fast, because I think that's like a sure sign to over-dilute yourself, over-dilute your resources, your time, your effort, your vision, right? Especially when you have a market opportunity that's ginormous right in front of you, right? Like we have this really interesting path. Our goal is we want to get to 1 million households, right? And we're confident we're going to get there in the next few years. And so we just feel like we have this awesome opportunity in front of us. And so we're going to try and dominate that opportunity that we have.
Very cool. Yeah. Staying focused is great. So, if a marketing campaign works well and there's like a noticeable uptick, which one of you, founders kind of manages the back end supply chain, or like, we have enough?
Yeah.
Right?
It's always interesting because that one of my co-founders, Dylan, he's in charge of, the ops, the supply chain, everything like that. And it's interesting, like where the pressure flows, right? It's like, okay, sales are going way up. Okay, we got to figure out how to fulfill all these. They're like, come on, ops, right? And then like we get a new shipment. It's like, all right, come on, marketing. Like let's uptick those sales, right? And so, so 2 of us are more dedicated on the technology and the marketing side than, he's a little bit more on the ops side. And so, and just a quick thing on like founding teams. I think it's super important to have a diverse set of skills. It's really hard to build something by yourself. It's really hard, just even from just like the mental game of going through the ups and downs. And so to have like an awesome team, it's really crucial. And having 3 founders on the Pestie team has just been absolutely essential to our growth, because we can all check each other. We have different opinions, but we all work really well together to get this thing to go in the right direction. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so are there's influencers, that help hawk shoes and lipstick and stuff like that. Is there any like influencers that would be ideal for Pestie?
Yeah. The makeup influencers don't work as well for pest control, right? Surprising, I know. But, no, there's this huge community of DIY influencers, right? Where they're either home flipping or they're more garden or yard focused. There are a lot of, work with your hands. Let's, fix this wall, fix this bathroom. Those people just kill it for us, honestly. And so that's where we focus a lot of our influencer marketing. And we actually like to stay a little smaller in the influencer world. We've just seen that the content they produce is a little bit better, right? They seem to push it a little bit better. Once influencers get too big, it starts getting really weird in terms of not aligning those goals, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, but yeah, DIY, home flippers, homeowners, landscapers, yarders, stuff like that. That's where we focus all of our influencer efforts.
Yeah.
Product reviewers too. They work well too, but more of those like lifestyle type world. It's just not ours. It works really well for some people, just not as much for us. So
gotcha. The ones that get things done.
Yeah.
Which I think I stole from This Old House.
That's right. Yeah. No, it's a Garrett original. It's a Garrett original. Yeah.
Yeah. This Old House would be great.
Yeah.
Anything on PBS.
There you go.
Very cool. And the meat and potatoes question of the podcast. How do you manage your day? What tools do you use, both technical, non-technical, to stay sane, to keep the ship rowing in the correct direction?
Yeah. In terms of like software and stuff like that?
Could be like mountain biking, could be software, could be just how you run your day.
Yeah. I think it's important to have like your mental game in check. And so you had just thrown out mountain biking, big mountain biker over here, big golfer, right? I think it's important to get out and make sure you're with yourself, get recentered, go. And then as a company, we use ClickUp. We think it's awesome. We do our daily stand-ups, we do our weekly planning, and it's nothing maybe super groundbreaking, but it's the consistency that matters, right? And keeping everybody accountable, even us as founders, making sure that we're accountable to the tasks that we said we were going to do. The mountain biking, hanging out with my kiddos. I got 2 little kids, so love hanging out with them. But mountain biking, golfing, ClickUp. I guess that summarizes my day. So
yeah, kind of in a similar boat there, minus the mountain biking. But ClickUp's quite the beast. It can do all sorts of stuff, and we've liked it as well.
Cool,
very cool. Well, thank you so much, Matt. One more thing is there's a discount code, allegedly, yeah, for listeners of the podcast.
Yeah, it's Silicon Slopes 10.
Silicon Slopes 10.
Yeah, just go check us out. So
very cool. We'll put that in the description as well. Thank you, Matt. Congrats on everything.
Hey, thanks for having me.
You bet.